Hello and welcome to a Project Cars 2 video where today we have the second race, the main race from round 1 of the AOR Clio Cup League. If you haven't seen the first race, go and watch that now, link will be in the description below. But yeah, that was a fantastic race and it sets us up very nicely for this race. This one is going to be the main race, 40 minutes in length, although it's taken us a while to form up into the correct position, so we've eaten. And we're just qualifying for the first of 2 races that we did that night and that are going to be featured here in this video. Manual formation lap. It's going to be a manual rolling start here. We're going to be starting from 13th position and we're going to be looking for another good result if we can possibly get it, trying to work our way up through the field. So we're just coming towards the end of the formation lap. We're coming up towards the acceleration zone where the leader will be putting his foot down to signify the start of the race. And it seems like we almost went there, but not quite. So we're going to drop ourselves back down into second gear. And I believe we are now underway racing. So haven't had the best of starts. Someone else seemed to get a pretty good launch coming off the line, shall I say, or reacting pretty well. Almost a slight 3-wide situation coming down in towards turn 1. A little bit of contact there between a number of us. Someone else kind of looked to the inside and bumped into that's Gerard Gerval, who's here in front of us and gets very, very sideways on the exit, allowing us to slip up the inside coming through turn 3. We've lost the position to As Turbo, but because of all that hawky-balky, we're now into, well, the same position that we started in P13. We can see a whole bunch of people up in front of us kind of getting all caught up and trying to battle and fight their way through the far chicane there, looking to the inside of As Turbo. I want to try and reclaim that position back off him and try and get back ahead once again, trying to get a decent run at Mad Hayes coming off the exit of the hairpin, but that doesn't quite work. Looking to the inside, coming into the long right-hander. Once again, that doesn't work either, and Mad Hayes getting very sideways there through the long right-hander as someone smashes one of the brake marker boards. All checking up as we're coming in towards the final part of our first racing lap here. And so far we have gained 1 position, but we'll be looking to try and make up a couple more positions if we potentially can. Tony Clifton's had a pretty poor run coming off the chicane with Smolder, I believe it was, kind of getting caught up a little bit, trying to pick up the slipstream here of Mad Hayes as we're pulling up alongside Tony Clifton as we're getting the run down towards Tony 1, but Tony Clifton comes across the front of ours and makes contact with us, sending us both into the wall. I did already have 3 damage on the front from turn 1, but that instant has gone and bumped us up to 10 damage on the front of the car after making heavy contact with the concrete barrier that was there on the right hand side of the circuit. That's going to drop us down into 19th position as well. It's the second to last points paying position here in the league. And now our work is going to be cut out for us with that damage on the front. It's not really going to affect the handling as such. It's more going to affect our straight line speed with the extra drag. And obviously in these low power cars where momentum is key and trying to get every little bit of performance you possibly can, as there's a car completely stationary there trying to take avoiding action, gone and slid off on the inside. It turned out that that driver ended up disconnecting and his car was actually ghosted, so I could have gone straight through him, but I did not know that at the time. And obviously you saw me try and take avoiding action. That caused me to lose the car as we were coming into the braking zone as well. That's going to drop me down into P19 now because of that slight incident there. So this has not been a good start for us here in this main race, but we still have 30 minutes and 40 odd seconds remaining to try and make up the positions. Just hope that my teammate Mr. Van Olmen is doing a good job of working his way through the field to try and basically save us points wise in terms of the team championship, as one of the drivers up ahead, I believe that's Diego Pereira, was venturing off onto the dirt and gravel. You can see just how much this damage at the front of my car is affecting us in terms of straight line speed. Someone's gone and taken out the 100-meter brake marker board there, which forced, well, basically led the 2 guys in front to miss the braking point and misjudge the first corner and go deep, and managed to just about judge it right and get the car slowed down. But obviously with that 100-meter brake marker board now missing, it's going to be very difficult to be accurate going into that first turn. It's going to be very easy to brake a little bit too early or brake a little bit too late and go deep. So yeah, going to have to try and find some other form of reference if I potentially can. Diego Pereira locking up slightly there, braking a little bit early and holding the inside line, defending as we were coming into the left-handed hairpin that prevented me from going up the inside there. Taking a wide approach going into the corner and hooking up a nice late apex. You can see the momentum that he carried with that line as well. Helped him close up onto the back of Tom Kell, who's in front of him in P16. Obviously we're in P18 at the moment. We have managed to recover one position back so far, I think. But yeah, things looking quite difficult and not in the best place. Certainly not having the performance that we had on the previous race. Obviously trying to pick up the slipstream here and try and negating the effect of the additional drag at the front of the car with the damage there. Diego Pereira looking to the inside of Tom Kill as we're coming into the first turn. Tom Kill going a little bit deep. Diego Pereira, I think, got on the brakes a little bit early, but that allowed him to take a nice smooth line coming through turn 1. Tom Kill taking a very tight line coming into the second turn there, and he ended up making contact with Diego Pereira as we were going through the apex there, and he lost the car on the exit. I tried to stay tight on the outside to try and go around him, but still ended up making contact, and that spun me off to the left and into the tyre wall. So now I've got 32 damage on the front of the car. Still, fortunately, no suspension damage, and this is Tom Kill actually waiting for me to go on past, which is the gentlemanly thing to do in the name of fairness. We do have some ruling in AOR where if you make contact with another driver and force them off, you are to wait for them and to reform up in the position behind them when they come back onto the circuit. Tom Kill doing exactly that, but now I'm having to fiddle with a strategy here to repair the aero damage, so I could dive into the pits and get this repaired and try and recover the race somewhat. So obviously 32 damage on the front of the car is going to be very detrimental. I'm just going to try just to see how bad it is coming down the start-finish straight, so we'll do one extra lap just to get an idea as to how much drag there actually is being produced at the front of the car. You can hear the bumper flapping away at the front, and you can see that Tom Kell in the relative board has come from about 0.3, 0.4 seconds back to overtaking me relatively easily on the approach down towards turn 1. So we've got quite a lot of drag being produced now at the front of the car after the 3 incidents. Obviously turn 1, where someone lost the under braking down the inside when we were already 3 wide. I think he just braked a little bit too late, got caught on the grass, and then tagged the guy who was on my right hand side, which shoved him across and into me. Picked up 3 damage from that. The incident with Tony Clifton, I think he was well, he was out there on the outside of Mad Hayes, kind of being squeezed up on the grass a little bit, but I think he was waiting for Mad Hayes to basically get in front and be clear of his nose so he can pull in behind him and pick up the slipstream. But obviously I was there, so I think he just he completely missed the fact that I was there, didn't see me at all, which ended up sideswiping us off both to the right hand side and into the concrete barrier. And then obviously the latest altercation with Tom Kell, as he took a very tight line coming into turn 2, trying to regain the position off of Diego Pereira, and that contact sent me off into the wall and has got me to the damage that I'm on now. So we're into the pit lane. This is obviously going to cost us a lot of time. It's going to drop us way back, way further than I would like to be, but I don't particularly want to be driving around for the next 26 minutes with 32 aero damage on the front of the car. So we'll get it repaired, see what we can do in terms of pace, and see if we can get ourselves back up into the points paying positions, which is the top 20. Currently in P21, but we've got Ticklish Picklewickle and also King Kodiak. They're coming down the start-finish straight now. I'm going to go flying on past, as they had a pretty difficult start to the race as well. So I'm going to be rejoining the circuit back into 23rd position, looking over across in the left-hand wing mirror just to see where I'm going to be coming out in relation to the rest of the pack, because the race leaders are coming up behind. They're about 2 to 3 seconds behind me. Alan leading the way at the moment in the lead, so I'm almost an entire lap down here. So now that the damage is repaired, I've got some clear air, I should be able to run my pace now, which if you watched the previous race, the sprint race with the qualifying beforehand, you know are kind of up there for the top 4/top 5 drivers. So fairly quick. Should be able to recover a whole bunch of positions, I hope, before the end of the race, but we've got 24.5 minutes to do so. I just felt like it was the better option and a better strategy out of either doing this or trying to just deal with the damage and drive around with 32 damage. I think it would just probably leave me more as a sitting duck than anything, and just kind of feeling hopeless and helpless, which I don't particularly like driving around in those kind of situations, because I just feel like I'm massively under pressure and therefore I make more mistakes. So if I can relieve the pressure from myself by getting that damage repaired and just purely focus on going absolutely gun-ho and trying to make the positions back, I feel like I'll be in a much more comfortable position to try and do that, or a much more comfortable mindset, shall I say, and not worry with the cards that I've been dealt. It's a hand that I now have, so I just got to make the most of it, all that I possibly can, not give up, and see if I can recover some points here in this race. So it looks like we're holding off the leaders behind quite nicely, the gap to about 4 seconds now to Alan, so that's pretty good. That's filling me with a little bit more confidence and a little bit more comfort. Got TPW is about 5 seconds up the road, and King Kodiak's about 4 seconds up the road at the moment, so be looking to try and eke that gap down, but both of the two are good, respectable, quick drivers as well. So I'm going to have my work cut out trying to make real headway with those guys. It's more the people up in front who are kind of at the tail end of the field who are probably slightly easier pickings. So we're beginning our first proper flying lap in clear air. It's a 1:21.1 at the moment. Good 0.5 of a second quicker than any of the previous laps that I've done so far, and you can see really trying to eke out the performance of the Clio, and basically just go for quali laps, although shy of the apex there, turned in a little bit too late, which meant that I had to kind of ease up on the throttle going through turn 2. Now into the fast right hander at the top of the hill through turn 4, into 5 and 6, the very fast chicane, using all the available track that's there for me to try and take the shortest route through, and then hard on the brakes into the left-handed hairpin. And we're pretty much evenly matched with our previous lap time. You can see that we're getting a little bit closer now to TPW and King Kodiak up ahead. King Kodiak's actually closing up onto the back of TPW as well, so seems like he's got the measure over the driver in front. If they start battling, it will allow me to close up onto the back of those two, but I don't really want to get caught up behind them two for too long. I want to obviously try and clear them as quickly as possible, so I can focus on trying to close down the guys further up in front. The last points paying position in P20 is occupied by Psycho at the moment. It's about 15-16 odd seconds up the road. Relative is dropping fairly rapidly, so I think he may have made a mistake somewhere along the line. He's possibly recovering back onto the circuit. Big lock up there though, coming into turn 1 and running very deep, just completely misjudging the braking point, catching the outside curb there, which I did not want to be doing. Coming into turn 2, you can now also see in the relative board, and also up in the top left, Mr. Van Ommen is now up into the podium positions. So my teammate is now there in 3rd place, hunting down the leaders in front. Seems like it's very close to Jack Game, who's currently holding P2 at the moment. So just trying to continue, see if we can bang in these qualifying laps. We want good, fast consistency. Previous lap was another low 21, so going to be aiming for that once again. Just need to get a good smooth run coming through the chicane here. Try and line myself up nicely for a good run off the exit and try and maximise the speed coming onto this start-finish straight. Obviously lost a fair bit of time in turn 1 by running deep. Try and avoid making that mistake this time round. So it's a mid-21 this time, 21.5 coming across the line. Much smoother this time coming into the braking zone. could have been a little bit more aggressive, possibly braking a little bit later, but obviously with the 100 brake marker board now missing, it's very difficult to judge going into that braking zone and getting it right. I just got to hope that I'm doing it a little bit better than the guys in front of me and continuing to close the gap to them. Seems like I got a bit more of a gap to Alan behind. Tony Takos is very, very slow here. So this could be a position for us to go down the inside into the left-handed hairpin, and indeed it is. So that's now us up into P22. But obviously taking that tight line in is going to cost me time to the lap times that I want to be setting. But at least this is a position we're closer, one step closer to getting P20. If we can pick up a few more kind of freebies like that one, that would be ideal. So just trying to keep an eye on the gap to the race leader up in the top left. As you can see, it's 1 minute 3 seconds, 0.8 or 0.7 at the moment. Want to continue to try and eke that gap down, but I know that once Mr. Van Olmen gets into the race lead, it's going to be very difficult to close the gap to him, and more likely he's going to be closing the gap to me and potentially lapping me as well. So I need to push hard and obviously try and avoid that situation from occurring. Nicely up in the first sector on our previous fastest lap. Nice clear track, so continue pushing hard once again. Dipping the inside wheels on the inside, and it seems like Psycho's had some issues coming out the exit of the fast chicane as well. TPW and King Kodiak have gone on through and slipped past him. So hopefully in the next couple of laps we'll be able to pick up 21st position. And we can see we're gaining time on TPW and King Kodiak ahead, and now both within 4 seconds or so. Just need to continue pushing on and continue to beat that gap down. So we've got 17.5 minutes of the race remaining. It seems like this is going to be our fastest lap of the race so far, dropping us down into the 1 minute 20s. Indeed it does, with 1:20.7. So more laps like that, and we've got the gap to the race leader now down to 1:02.8. So we've taken about 8-9 tenths of a second out of Alan's lead. This is Psycho flashing his lights, I think just letting me go on through. He stayed very nicely over to the left hand side of the circuit there, so he didn't affect or impede me in any way. So we're up by about 1/10 of a second on our previous fastest lap through that first sector. Just need to hook up the rest of the lap now. Nice smooth run coming through the fast chicane, and we can see that we're visibly closing up onto the back of TPW and also King Kodiak, as the two of them are battling away for that 19th position. The next car ahead of them is Fatworm, who's a lap down. So they're not going to gain any positions by passing him. But at the moment we can't distinguish how far up the road P18 is. So getting a fairly decent run through the final chicane there, although running a little bit wide on the exit. It's got me a slowdown penalty here. Do I lift to try and clear it or not? I can't quite remember. Yes, I do. So we're going to try and clear this before we get ourselves down to turn 1, before it turns into an actual penalty. But unfortunately it does turn into an actual 1 second penalty. We didn't clear it in time. Probably would have been better to have just kept my foot in and just taken on a time penalty and then tried to deal with that later by clearing the car behind by the amount that I got given. So this isn't going to be a good lap. Snagging the outside curb there on the entry into the fast chicane. Stepped the car out, but we managed to gather it back up and hold on to that one. Oh, catching the inside wheels on the very big curb there, lifting them up onto 2 wheels. That's going to cost us even more time as well. Just a few mistakes in the last lap or so, costing me progress here. But we've still got 15 minutes to try and get ourselves up into the points. We just need one more position and then I'll be picking up a single point from this race. Obviously far from ideal, not where I want to be, but at least it'll be something. It seems like the stutters in this race have settled down an awful lot as well in comparison to the last one, which is good. Smoother experience, obviously better quality for you guys to watch as well. Rear end of the car sliding around a little bit as we were coming into the first turn there, but that's kind of helped us to rotate into the corner quite nicely, carrying that speed and momentum through. We're up on our previous fastest time at the moment, where the last lap was invalidated. I'm not going to show the sector splits for this lap. Little bug, very minor one though, as they'll come back on the next lap, providing I don't invalidate this one. So a nice good run there. Coming into the last sector, not as good as my fastest lap has been so far. Losing a little bit of time through the right-hander before the chicane. This time it's probably going to be another low 21. Indeed it is a 21.1. Gap to the race leaders, coming back down once again after picking up the penalty a couple of laps ago. Mr. Van Ormen is closing up onto the back of Alan as well, so those two will start battling away with each other in a bit. Seems like King Kodiak has dropped off the back of TPW up in front as well. Few car lengths between them. I say a few car lengths, looks like there's about 30-40 meters between them now, whereas before, a handful of laps ago, they were right together. King Kodiak right up on the back of Ticklish Pickerwickle's rear bumper, but we're closing up on the pair of them, which is good. Just like I said earlier, I need to try and clear them as quickly as possible and not get caught up behind them or get caught up battling with them and then losing touch with either TPW when I come up onto the back of King Kodiak or with the guys up in front either. As obviously, once I do clear them, I'll be setting my sights up on P18. So my teammate Mr. Van Ormen has managed to get the move done on Alan somewhere along the line. So he's now up into the race lead, which now means that that gap between myself and the race leader, my teammate, is going to start to come down because Mr. Van Ormen is extremely quick. I don't have the pace that he has, so no doubt he will start to close up onto the back of me in these final 11.5 minutes. But hopefully we can keep ourselves on the lead lap, as it will give me a little bit more time to try and catch and battle with other people. If needs be. It's obviously putting me a lap down. Once the leader crosses the line, that's it. But if he's right there and he crosses the line, I've still got another lap to try and do something with. Hugging the inside curve very nicely through the long right-hander there. So we're up on our previous fastest at the moment. I don't want to throw it away coming through final sector here. Obviously pushing as much as I can, try and continue setting quick lap times. Looks like we may improve coming across the line here on our previous fastest. We do by 0.02 of a second, trying to pick up the slipstream of Psycho as we're coming down the start finish straight, putting another lap on him. Wasn't that long ago that we passed him for position, but I think he may have made contact with the wall, jumped into the pits to repair the damage, just put him off so far off the back of us. So yeah, King Kodiak and TPW looking a lot closer now than they have done on previous laps. King Kodiak much visibly more so. Obviously he's the next car in front. They're pretty much there constantly in the picture now, rather than catching the occasional glimpse of them. So this is encouraging. I've got the pace over those two, but it's catching them is one thing, passing is going to be another, especially when they're running pretty good pace themselves. Good smooth run there through the chicane. You can see in the top right front left tyre still taking a lot of punishment. The tyre wear is coming down, but it's not going to be an issue here in this race. I'm not going to need to change tyres at any point. They will do the full race distance. It cools off quite nicely before we get to turn 1 anyway. Of course, it'll heat up again as we go through that first corner. And likewise through turn 2 as well, though less so. See that the rear right brake is stone cold. That'll probably be because coming into a number of the right-handers on the brakes, kind of trail braking in. The Clios do cock up onto 3 wheels a little bit, and obviously that inside rear right wheel lifting up into the air will lock a lot more easily when it doesn't have the friction of the tarmac. And obviously the brake's being applied, so it'll lock up and therefore there won't be any heat generated through the brake. There's no rubbing, there's no friction between the pad and the disc. So that'll be why you see it stone cold and colder than the rest of the brakes. We can see we're now very nice and close to the back of King Kodiak. 0.3 seconds off the back of him. We've got the slipstream coming down this straight, and King Kodiak actually moves over to the right hand side of the circuit there and just lets us on through. Very much aware that my pace is quicker than his. Didn't really fancy fighting me for the position there, so it's allowed me to go on through to try and pursue Ticklish Picklewickle in front. That's obviously now put me up into the points, so if the race was to finish now, I'll be picking up 1 point from this P20. We can see from the relative board that the next 2 cars in front, beyond Ticklish Picklewickle that is, are both lap cars. Those are the 2 that we can see in the picture up ahead. Obviously TPW is the car that's immediately there in front of us. So hopefully P18 isn't too far away. Getting a bit sideways there as we're coming into the right-hander. Just about managing to hold on to the car. Very aggressive with the curbs coming through the final chicane. TPW right on the back of Fatworm, but Fatworm will move over to the right hand side of the circuit and ease off the throttle a little bit to allow TPW through without impeding him too much. TPW's actually got himself a 1 second penalty, time penalty as well. So if I'm not able to get past him, I just need to well, I do need to get past him because I got a 1 second penalty myself as well. Not too sure what I was entirely thinking there. But yeah, Fatworm here, just in front, lifts out the throttle and stays tight on the exit there. Go run a little bit wide, as that was a little bit close. We now got the other back marker of Tony Takos quite slow through the far chicane, but that's now freed up space on the relative board to see where P18 and P17 are, and you can see that they are 6 and 7.5 seconds or so respectively up the road, so they're fairly close. That's filling me with confidence, but I've only got 5.5 minutes plus the lap that the countdown timer reaches 0 on in order to get up onto the back of them and make the pass for the position. And of course we've got to try and get past TPW as well. We now got Mr. Van Olmen coming up behind. He's less than a second behind us now, so I've got the pressure there of my teammate, the race leader, on my rear bumper. Well, he's not quite on my rear bumper, but he's getting fairly close. Just over a second as we're coming down the start-finish straight. So I'm going to start getting blue flags from him as TPW locks up slightly on the outside wheel, which cost him the turning point coming into turn 1. His line through turn 2 wasn't the best. Starting to get the odd blue flag message starting to pop up on the screen now with Mr. Van Orman behind, but I think he understands my situation, and he'll probably understand that I'm obviously going to be eager to try and stay ahead of him to give myself as much opportunity as possible to try and make additional positions. You can see TPW's car is battered and bruised, but I'm pretty sure he'd been through the pit lane at the in the early part of the race before I did, to lead him to end up in the position that he's in. So we're closing right up onto the back of TPW now as we're coming through the final chicane and into the final corner. This will give us a slipstream coming down the start-finish straight, so we'll try and make the move coming into the first turn. Just need to be close enough to make the lunge. A little bit of a warp there as he was moving forward ahead, but it did settle back down into position, and now we're starting to close up in the closing speed. Not going to be quite close enough to make the lunge, but I look to the inside anyway and do kind of somewhat go for it. I think TPW just allowing me to take the inside line, not really fight the position too heavily. He was having a bit of a look down the inside there coming into turn 2, but managed to hold off the position. So that's now us up into P19 and ahead of him. Mr. Van Orman has just about managed to find a way through as well. So now we look to Tom Kell, who is in P18 in front, less than 3 seconds up the road, and beyond him is Mr. Zach, who's currently holding 17th. DH Gamer is 9 seconds up the road, so I think he's going to be a little bit too far out of reach, certainly with less than 3 minutes to go now. I can hear Mr. Van Orman behind, still getting those blue flags, but I'm going to be cheeky and ignore him from now, as I want to try and stay on the lead lap as much as possible. And I can tell you now that he was actually very much aware of the situation as well. We spoke after the race. I apologise for not really moving out the way of blue flags, but he's said it's completely fine and understandable. I can see that you were trying to obviously catch the guys in front, and he knew that if he lapped me, that would be it. That would be me locking the position. This is Tom Kemmel giving me the position here for P18 and allowing me to slip on through there. I think he may have mistaken me for Mr. Van Orman with him about to be lapped. He got out of the way there thinking that I was the race leader, so that was pretty cheeky. That benefited from that, but that wasn't really my own fault. I was just taking my usual racing line, and he moved over and jumped on the brakes. There you can see Mr. Van Orman in the rear view mirror behind, so he has literally just sat a car length or two off my rear bumper. But that's now us up into P18, which is good. We just need to try and close down to Mr. Zach, 3.5, 4 seconds up the road. He's currently there in P17, and he's actually got a 2-second penalty to his name at the moment as well. I've only got 1 second, so if I can get within 1 second of him, even if I don't make the physical pass on track, I'll get the position because of the penalties. Just watching Mr. Van Orman there in the rear view mirror down that start-finish straight to see how close he was getting. Very, very wide there on the exit. It's going to compromise me coming through turn 2 and into turn 3. But we do okay. Just the last couple of laps now. So I need to be pushing like absolute crazy to try and close up onto the back of Mr. Zach. And there you can see in the ring mirror, Mr. Van Orman still sat just behind me, following me around at the moment. Need to nail this final sector here, as Mr. Van Orman is now on the final lap, so I'm going to have one more full lap in order to try and get within 2 seconds of Mr. Zach in front. So we'll need to push hard. Mr. Van Orman's done a stellar job. He started in P16 because he won the sprint race The top 16 get put in reverse grid order. So we would have started in 16th position. He's managed to get himself up into the race lead, claim the race win, running very deep there as we lock the inside front wheel coming into the first corner. Need to get a good run coming through turn 2 and turn 3, pushing hard, running a little bit wide there through turn 2. That's going to be a slowdown warning for us. We're going to need to try and either clear this if we possibly can to avoid picking up another time penalty, but you can see I'm very much eager to try and close up onto the back of Mr. Zach, who makes a mistake coming through the far chicane. This is allowing us to close up. I'm just hoping and praying that it's going to clear at some point, but indeed it doesn't. It's going to give me a 1 second penalty as well. So now both Mr. Zach and myself now on 2 seconds in terms of time penalties. We need to try and get past him physically on track if we want to try and take that 17th position. We've also got DH Gamer, who's also struggling in dying stages of the race, and we've closed up onto the back of him as well, but we're not going to be close enough. We just need one more lap. But of course, Mr. Van Ommen's already crossed the line. The countdown timer has already reached 0. If I had one more lap, I felt I could have probably got 17th position, maybe even 16th at a real push, but that's going to be P18 for us as we come across the start-finish line there. Definitely not the race that I wanted. There is the race results. You can see my teammate Mr. Van Ommen taking the race win. And there is myself in P18. So a very frustrating race, but nonetheless, hopefully you guys enjoyed this one. If you did, give the video a thumbs up. If you have any comments or questions, feel free to leave those down in the comment section below. If you haven't watched race 1, go and watch that now, because that was absolutely phenomenal race. Much better than this one. So much more action-packed and a lot closer. But if you're new here, consider subscribing to the channel. And until the next video, thank you very much for watching. Hopefully I'll catch you in the next one. But until then, have fun, stay safe, and take care.